everybody, and welcome to CEO Chat. My name is, what was my?
Alcini.
And your name is Joe Asamendi?
Yes, it is.
Just like last week.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. Yeah, I know.
Back to you, too.
And the week before.
Yep.
As usual, though, it's about a great guest. And we have a terrific guest with us today. Her name is Jeri Quinn, and I'm going to hold up her
Nice
book.
to meet you, Jerry.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
A pleasure. I'll get to shake your hand later. But,
Yeah.
you've written a book called The Customer Loyalty Playbook, and I'm going to start by holding this up. It's available, I guess, on Amazon? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And we'll talk about the book. But before we do that, let's talk about what Jeri Quinn does and how she makes a difference. Talk before the program. You're an executive business coach.
That's right.
And Jeri, based on the conversation we had, it's not as so much about process in a business as it's about mindset in the business. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely about mindset.
Good.
And as an executive business coach, I help people grow their mindset so that they can be a real leader in their business, perform well with their staff, lead well, inspire, motivate, hold people accountable, and then lead their business to increasingly greater levels of performance and proficiency and market share.
Wow, that's great. See, to right down the pipe for what our audience would generally want. Our audience are...
You mean they want success?
Yeah, you are, yeah. Well, we're not finished.
Absolutely.
We still have another 25 minutes. But, so we're not done yet. But it's a great start. We've got people who watch our program who run companies, might be founders of companies.
That's right.
And also people who manage within companies. And what we're really talking about here is something Joe and I sometimes refer to as founder syndrome, which
Right.
is the difference in the mindset between what it takes to create a company and the mindset that it takes to actually run that company successfully.
Can I tell you about pioneers, settlers, and city planners?
Please.
Sure, we want to hear about that.
So the person who starts a company and is an innovator, they really want to just disrupt things. And they, like an Uber or an Airbnb, they want to turn an industry all around, right? And so they're real pioneers. But then as the business grows and they get 10 or 20 employees, they need some settlers, the people who are going to create some systems and processes and make it so that the business can function reliably, you can get customers reliably, you can turn out products or services reliably.
Right.
And then once the business grows to maybe 100 employees or so, then they've got some city planners, the people who cross the T's, dot the I's, do strategic planning in depth, make sure that all the regulations are met, make sure that everything is in place and the foundation is strong for the business to really grow exponentially.
That makes a big difference.
And a leader of a fast-growing company needs to be able to make that shift between the pioneer mentality to realizing that settlers are needed. A lot of times founders think that they should just hire more people like them, when really they need some settlers to actually create infrastructure and create the basis for which the company can grow to the next level.
Right.
And then they don't always get that the city planners are necessary because it's not in their purview. And so that's what they need.
It resonates with me because Joe and I have been in partnerships before, and we've worked with some really talented, very gifted people with terrific vision, lots of creativity. But they'll actually share with you conversationally that crossing the T's and dotting the I's just gets in the way of that. Your whole point is that is a false perception. Isn't that true?
Yeah, so what gets you here doesn't get you there. And so people don't know what they don't know. And so they've taken their companies so far, and up to that point, the city planner type of person is not necessary yet. But to get to the next level, they really need to introduce that next level of mentality and planning and detail, or else they won't be able to create the foundation to get to that next level.
That's great. Okay, now there's an evolution then that you guide people through
Right.
to get from where they are, which is kind of a comfort zone, into where they really need to be,
Life
which is
is lived on the edge of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, right. And getting people, steering them out of that, that's not necessarily a traumatic thing, but it's a positive thing if you want good results.
Right.
Because, and you brought some props to illustrate that.
Let me tell you about these
Okay,
props.
let's
So
let's
this
see
is a water bottle, and what's characteristic about this bottle, it has a narrow neck, a bottleneck. And so people who only think at one level, or who don't delegate, or who want to have control so everything runs through them, they become bottlenecks in their business. Every time you see a water bottle, think of whether you're going to ask yourself the question, are you a bottleneck? And so one of the things that I bring to the table is I help people learn how to delegate, and of course they have to have somebody to delegate to, and you don't delegate to someone without any kind of training or preparation.
Right.
So you have to hire the right people, and that's sometimes what founders don't do. And then you have to train them well in order to accept the responsibility, and then you can feel comfortable delegating to them.
Got it, got it.
The next prop I brought is sunglasses. And so sunglasses are all
That
about
happens all
the
the time. I'm just
different.
glad that wasn't a hand grenade. Go on.
You can see what your worldview is. So sunglasses are all about reminding you that everybody has a different worldview. So these are dark-colored lenses. We often talk about the proverbial rose-colored glasses, and there are red colors and green colors and even transition lenses, right?
Sure.
And so everybody sees the world differently. The point being that when you bring a bunch of people into a company, everybody's going to have a slightly different viewpoint based on their past experience and how they see the world and what their triggers are. And when you bring them all together, it creates conflict, it creates drama, it creates politics. And I bet you, having been CEOs of your own companies at one point or another, have experienced the waste of time it is to unsort out miscommunication and
Sure.
deal with conflict and politics. It takes an inordinate amount of time, especially if the CEO or the person at a high management level, to actually have to deal with that. Wouldn't it be better to get some communications training up front so that people become much more aware of their emotional lives and what triggers them? And then if I know that you're triggered by impulse control, then I know that I'm going to steer clear of this particular trigger for you so that we can just get our work done. And we can do things much more smoothly, right?
Sure.
Okay, so the 3 steps then, if you're working with me, and believe me, Joe and I working together, you can tell Jeri that I could have used this.
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
probably could continue to use this. And there are a lot of people out there that I think really could use your help. The first step is for me to stop engaging in the behavior that makes me an impediment to my own success, which is the bottleneck issue. The second step is to start seeing the world as a real place and not as a kind of a fantasy place that I built up in my own
We all
head.
have emotions. We all have emotional overlays over the other, all over everything.
Right.
But we sometimes creep up this ladder of conclusions that means just because I experience the world this way means everybody experiences the world this way, or just because my mother yelled at me when I was 4 and I got all emotionally upset, that now that I'm 34, I carry a lot of that
I
upset
carry that
around
baggage
with me and
that
it gets
colors-
triggered.
That colors the way I see the world, and I need to overcome that. But before we take a break, I want your third prop, which is when I'm
Sure.
empowered enough after those first 2 steps. Go ahead, talk about that.
When you were 16, the morning you woke up on your 16th birthday, did you automatically get handed a car key and said, we assume you can drive because you're 16? No, you actually took driving lessons and tests and all different kinds of things to make sure you were reliable behind the wheel. And so this car key represents the training. In our organizations, somebody's a good worker and then we automatically assume they're going to be a good manager. It doesn't work that way. People go through becoming an individual contributor, and then if they get promoted to a team leader or to a manager, everything shifts from being skill-oriented to being people management oriented. And that's a whole different skill set. And if you're going to promote somebody to be a manager, you really have to give them the training so they develop this new skill set of emotional intelligence, people management, accountability, inspiration, goal setting, all those things that a manager needs that even a talented individual contributor just hasn't been exposed to.
No, that's important.
A
That's so
great
critical.
salesman doesn't necessarily make a great manager.
Absolutely.
Oh,
You've got
absolutely
experience
true.
with that because you've done a lot of outside sales, right?
Absolutely,
Well,
exactly.
yeah,
And
for sure.
that's true, because you do have a tendency to take your own experiences and feel that everybody else should have the same experience
Sure.
when it's not true.
That
That's
kind
right.
of projection is one of the mistakes that people can
Right,
make.
exactly.
And you take a neuroscience approach to this. I mean, you're really talking about the way people's brains are wired, and you're helping them kind of rewire, reframe
yes.
their perceptions of the world and change the way they think, and that's where you get the breakthroughs in the work that you do.
That's right. And I can talk a little bit about brain science. Shall we do that now?
Well, we're going to take a break in a minute. When we come back, let's talk more about
All
that.
right,
But I think before we take the break, I just want to make the point. It is not a weakness to reach out to somebody like Jeri. In fact, it is a sign of strength to reach out to somebody like Jeri.
More companies are doing it for their emerging leaders than are doing it for somebody who they're trying to retrofit in a square peg in a round hole.
And that is so important. And before we take the break, if you think you don't need it, the fact that you think you don't need it may be in fact your problem.
Right.
And so we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll have more great conversation with Jeri Quinn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay where we are.
Juicy.
Jeri, thank you for being here. We really,
She's a great guest.
really enjoy having you.
We were going to open this segment too with a discussion of neuroscience, which is
Yeah.
what you do and how you do your work. So why don't we start
So,
with that?
I've done a lot with conversational intelligence. I'm certified in it. And one of the things about conversational intelligence is it was developed with a lot of CEOs of Fortune 1000 companies. And it's all about how you relate your culture and your conversations and the relationships that create those things to how the brain works. So the brain, you have a prefrontal cortex, and of course multiple parts, but there's also an amygdala, which is also the primitive brain. The prefrontal cortex is your executive brain. And so when people react at a fight or flight because they feel threatened and they feel they have to protect themselves, they're reacting out of their amygdala. When people are functioning from trust and security in a safe space and wisdom and visioning, then they are functioning from their prefrontal cortex, the executive brain. And in our businesses, if I want you to be great employees, then I, as the leader, have to exhibit my prefrontal cortex and all the oxytocin, which is a transmitter, hormonal transmitter there. So that I could expect the same from you, because I can't lead you with my amygdala and not have you expect to defend with your own amygdalas.
That's important.
And so the more leaders learn to master their own brain, the more they can lead a very growth-oriented company.
Well,
Sure.
That's so important. I think that, often we're driven by the lizard brain reactions. When we react to things,
That's right.
we react to things based on the lower brain functions that fight or flight that you mentioned. But when we actually planfully, mindfully do things, it's after we've counted to 10 to give that little
Yeah.
brainstorm a chance to settle down.
Yeah.
And then we can start using the gray part of our brain that actually makes good choices and smart decisions.
Right. So it's stimulus, pause, response. Now, pause is very important.
Causes when our
Whether
parents used to tell us count to 10.
sometimes it's counting to 10, sometimes it's just, so people actually wear a wristband and they snap the wristband as a reminder to themselves, and so they can transfer it into a physical habit if that's what they need to do. But whatever it is, that pause allows you to rethink how you want to react rather than have an automatic lizard brain, primitive brain
reaction to
response.
things.
They get to think through what would be best in this situation to further the situation, not just to protect myself.
That's great.
A knee-jerk response, so to speak.
That's right.
important. Now, I want to mention, too, that people who are watching our program are interested in both bottom line and top line performance.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about bottom line performance in terms of city planners and settlers and how that kind of thinking can save you money and avoid problems and keep you out of court and make sure that things
Right.
run, which is important. But as far as top line is concerned, you wrote a book, and I want to start maybe with this book, The Customer Loyalty Playbook by Jeri Quinn, which is available on Amazon.
That's right.
It sounds to me like this is a top-line book about making sure that your revenue stream stays fresh and healthy.
Yeah, and it touches on bottom line too. But the whole point of having a business is that you have customers, and loyal customers actually generate a lot more revenue than all kinds of getting new customers all the time. And of course, you don't want a leaky bucket where you're losing customers even though you're getting new customers in the top. And so when you have loyal customers, you're fulfilling the goals of the business. Your loyal customers and loyal employees, as research to show, go kind of together.
Right.
And so you're actually saving costs and staff retention as well as growing the top line. And, when you have great staff, they bring in customers.
Right.
And then, of course, customers create referrals and they create great Yelp reviews. And so that customer loyalty just makes it more fun for everybody, internal customers and external customers.
That's
And you
great.
have to think in terms of each person inside an organization is a customer to one another, because I might do process X and then hand it off to you. You do process Y, and then you do process Z after
Right.
he's done. And so we're all customers to one another when we can create great working relationships. We're creating a safety net that lifts up all external customers as well,
Right.
and gets beyond silo thinking or the kind of politics and behavior that
Right.
that don't make for smooth operations.
It's passive-aggressive behavior. You
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
get that, and that's...
And don't you want to come to work to feel good?
Right,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
I mean,
Sure.
you don't come into work to do a 9 to 5. You're coming
Right.
to work to be engaged and be fulfilled and
It's
fulfill
supposed to be something you look
a
forward to.
goal and feel inspired.
Right.
That's what a great company is. And you know, Zappos is a great company created by that kind of culture, and they sold themselves to Amazon for over $1
That's
million.
important. I mean,
So,
Joe and I, when we're
Yeah.
not on television talking to great guests like you, we're in the brand and culture business. And
Yeah.
that kind of positive culture comes from a sense of mission that everybody shares. And,
That's right.
And promoting people from manager to leader, that level up. How do you create the kind of leadership that clarifies that kind of message and gets everybody engaged in it is really what you do.
yeah. Well, like Simon Sinek, you start with why, right?
Yeah, uh-huh. Good.
and you create an inspiration that you buy in, that really inspires you as a CEO, if you're the pioneer, right?
Yep.
And then you gather people around you who are also inspired by that. And you hire for cultural fit, for inspirational fit. You train them for skills. They don't always come in with maybe the exact skill. And as a fast-growing company, people's skill needs are going to change because the company's going to need different skills.
Sure, exactly.
But if you've hired for cultural fit, getting the right people on the bus in the right seats, then you are, you know, you're creating a company where the culture just grows love and inspiration and
Sure.
goodness and mutual support everywhere.
And that's intrinsically motivating to employees,
That's
which
right.
raises their engagement level, which gets you much better
Right.
results.
And it's been shown that people don't work for money and they don't work for other things. They work for mastery and they work for a sense of fulfillment.
That's what makes people,
And
especially
all that
millennials.
intrinsic motivation you just talked about.
And it's funny, especially millennials, because you know, while we say what we want about younger people entering the workforce, they really want to feel like they're integrated into a part of something that's changing the world in a positive way.
That's right.
And not just earning a living.
That's right.
I mean, the check is less important to them than the mission that they're on. And I think you helping leaders see that and perceive that, it's good for every generation, not just for, in a way, we kind of owe it to our kids to remind us why we do the things
Yeah,
we do.
I mean, we train these millennials. The least we could do is listen to how we train
Listen
them.
to them, yeah, that's true.
We always
Now,
say people don't follow people, that people follow what people follow.
People follow what
That's
people
right.
follow, and that
That's what
sense
it
of
is.
followership is really
Exactly.
what binds everybody together. And I
Yeah.
also want to mention, you wrote a paper identifying the 10 traps, kind of 10 traps that a leader can find themselves in if they're not
That's right.
mindful about it. Could you talk a little bit about that? I think that
Yeah.
would be...
So those 10 traps are where this pioneer actually gets bogged down because they get overwhelmed and they become the bottleneck because they want control, and then they don't have a life because they're putting it all into the business and there's no sense of maintaining relationships with family and friends. It kind of gets pushed to the back burner. And because they've been a founder, they don't know how transparent to be with the people that they joined with them. And then the managers that they hired, the people that they hired initially to help them found the company, they want to hire people under those people, but those people have never had management training because that's not their skill set.
Right. That's
And so they really have to be asked whether they really want to become a manager and be trained to be a manager, because it's not going to automatically be a shoo-in.
Yeah, that's important. Well, okay, we're coming up on a break. I'm rattling off a couple of these. I have too many things I'm doing myself and I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what I don't know. I mean, these kinds of traps are self-limiting traps.
Self-sabotaging traps.
They're self-sabotaging things that you can do, maybe not even, and they feel good. That's the problem is these problems that you create
Well,
yourself.
sometimes they feel good until you get so busy that they're no longer
Well, you know,
sustainable.
and I real quick before the break, people can get this by emailing you.
That's right.
And at the end of the program, you'll get a chance to tell everybody how to do that. So
Absolutely.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, we have more with Jeri Quinn. We're not finished yet. We have a lot more to talk
Oh,
about.
I'm eager.
It's fun, isn't it? So we'll be
Go
back with
anywhere.
more CEO Chat in just a minute.
Right.
Thank you.
Great.
But our guest is somebody really, really special. I mean, we've had lots of consultants on the program before who help people with their business problems. But in a way, you help people grow their businesses by overcoming some of their cognitive difficulties, some impairments that they have that they're not even aware of. We mentioned founder syndrome, that's just one of them. But you've also written a really interesting book with a co-author, Richard Lambert. It's called The Business Divorce, Business Divorce.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And this is also available for sale?
No, it's available for free.
For free.
great.
So you go to my alternate website, which is businessdivorceinstitute.com, and it's a free download.
Oh,
It's
great.
a free ebook that is meant to inform people. So I work with executives at the founding level, I work in larger companies, but then I have a specialty area working with business partners, whether it be 2 partners, 3 partners, or a variety of partners. And because a lot of my work focuses on neuroscience-based communication, this is all about communication.
Really?
Richard Lambert, my co-founder, is a business lawyer, so he takes the communication side, which is like the back of the hand, and transfers it into legal documents, which is like the front of the hand. So we work together very closely.
Oh, good.
And so if you two were business partners, which I think you are, life
And
happens.
we could use your help, by the way. I want to joke
And you might decide,
vice versa.
oh, there's a bright, shiny object out there.
Yeah.
I might like to pursue this other thing. And then you're sitting here saying, I thought he was my 50-50 partner, and all of a sudden I'm doing all the work.
I know.
I feel that way.
And
all the
then
time.
sometimes
He does.
he might say, oh, I got kids going through college. I got to take more money out of this business. And you know what? I was on vacation. I'm not going to tell them. So I'm just going to take more money out. And then you're going to come back from vacation and say, what's this?
Where's
yeah,
this money going?
where's the trust here?
Right.
Well,
and all of a
that-
sudden, everything starts going wrong
That's when
because
everything
you've
starts going
lost
south.
trust.
Right, right.
And then you need a facilitated discussion about how to regain that trust, because now you're both wounded, right?
Right.
You've got to mend things, and what's happening? You've got employees. They don't know who to listen to anymore.
Right.
You got one story, you got another story.
Right.
And you've got customers who might get caught in the middle because you're telling a customer one thing, and then you're picking up the ball, and they hear a completely different story. Or there's all kinds of things that business partners that are like joint venture partners
Right.
get different messages. And
That's key.
your business falls apart, right? And so I focus on the beginning of the business. How do you form a business partnership? Should you form them, and who should be the best candidate? I have 16 questions to ask each other so that you're getting in bed together with somebody you previously dated. You want to have a few dates, you want to do some joint ventures, then you want to get married, and then you want to have a legal document to seal that. And then as you're growing your business, you want to have annual partnership reviews, maybe while you're getting ready to do some strategic planning, so that
Right.
you make sure the relationship is good. And you can talk about, my kids are going to college next year, I'm going to have to take extra money out of the business. How can we make that happen?
Communication is so important.
Oh,
that's so
yeah.
important. Okay,
And
now-
then there's 5 ways to break up the business, because the whole point is you want an amicable breakup or else no breakup, just a
Right.
great succession plan at the end. And
I-
so this is all about preventing business divorce. I know
That's
you were going to
important.
say
I
that.
think that was the part I wanted to. I wanted
Yeah,
to make
I
a
know.
point. Your colleague in the Business Divorce Institute is an attorney.
That's
and
right.
so there are legal aspects associated
Absolutely.
with partner problems that Richard Lambert can help with.
Yeah, so it might be litigious. You might find him taking you to court to actually work out some
And in
minor
which case,
shareholder.
in which case, an attorney who specializes in this would be a good person to know.
Absolutely.
But also, it could be that you can prevent that from happening, and that's where somebody like Jeri Quinn, our guest today, comes in.
That's
To
right.
help you with solving the communication problems and overcoming some of those jealousies and envies and some of the pettiness that leads you down the road to
Yeah,
court in the first
because
place.
we all have different points of view, and we all get triggered by different things.
That is really key. Okay, now we're coming up on that part of our program, Tyler, I guess, where Jeri gets to tell everybody how to reach her. So why don't you go ahead and do that? Look straight into your camera there. and-
Yes. So I'm Jeri. You spell my name Jeri. And so my email is Jeri, Jeri, at Driving Improved Results. So that improved has an ED and results is plural, drivingimprovedresults.com. And then you can download the Business Divorce Institute book by going to businessdivorceinstitute.com. And at drivingimprovedresults.com, you'll find a blog. I have a blog that is very challenging. It dares you to get things done and dares you to go to the next level. And then I also do all kinds of presentations, like seminars and workshops, and a lot of times it's business growth with Jeri, or not, because you can choose not to grow if you want, but then that's your choice. Once you hear how to grow, if you choose not to grow, that is a choice.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Jeri. I appreciate that. And thank you for joining us today on CEO Chat. Terrific conversation. Founders of companies, owners of companies, leaders in business really
And
ought to
business
reach out to Jeri.
partnerships.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah, they should reach out to
partnerships.
Jeri and get to know her the way we've gotten to know her. You've got a lot you can learn from her. Thank you, Jeri, for being on our
Oh,
program.
you're welcome, and it was wonderful. Thank you so much
thank
for
you,
being
Jeri.
so
It was a great
such
experience.
interactive partners. I
We
really love it.
we have a nice chemistry on camera, don't we?
Yeah,
You should catch
you
us
do.
when we're off camera sometime.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not true. Thank you all very much for joining us on CEO Chat.